It turns out that, as you see the answer, none of these are valid learning objectives. So I'll let Madhuri explain why this is so.
So what we have seen is, whatever written right now here, all the three, that is, they are not valid learning objective. Why they are not valid learning objective? Let us visit to the definition of learning objective. What definition says? Learning objective includes specific, measurable performance outcome of the students. So now, let us see one by one all these learning objectives. The first learning objective is students will be able to understand function of the logic gate. So now when we say that understand function of the logic gate, it is not a specific measurable outcome. Understanding of function, how are we going to check it? If they are able to draw the circuit is also understanding, if they are able to write truth table is also understanding. So what is a specific measurable outcome when we say that student will able to understand the function? So let us go to the second learning objective. Student will be able to visualize logic gate. Now visualization of logic gate, it's difficult to measure. It can be in the form of waveform, it can be in the form of truth table. So how are we going to measure visualization of logic gate of the students? The third is they will know. So how you know that students are knowing logic gate, how logic gate works? How are you going to measure that student know how logic gate works? So for all these three verbs whatever we have used, none of them are specific measurable performance outcome of the student. And definition says that we want specific measurable outcome of the student which is not fulfilled by any one of this, and thus none of the above is the answer for this question. That is, none of the learning objective written here satisfies definition of learning objective.
This is really an important slide here, so that's why I'd like to keep this on for a moment. And Madhuri explained why each of these is not a valid learning objective. What I'd like you to think about as teachers is, if you want to try to measure students' understanding, there are various ways in which you might think understanding can be measured. Some of you might ask students to simply define the quantity. Some of you might ask students to give an example to measure understanding. Others might ask students to draw something to measure understanding. Yet others might give an application problem or a real life problem to measure understanding. So understand actually can stand for a variety of different things. And this is exactly where the mismatch happens, as you saw in the teaching learning scenario. That the teacher, according to the teacher, understanding meant solving a real life problem. But according to the students, understanding simply meant knowing the concepts or writing the definition of the concepts. So as a teacher, this word understand is really problematic. It's not at all precise. So what we'll do now is to see how exactly to write learning objectives so that they are specific and measurable. And the other point which you should note here is that none of these are really performance outcomes, in the sense, what is it that you want the student to specifically be able to do? You're not trying to find out what's in the student's mind, but you're looking for actions and behaviors of the student. That's what's meant by performance outcome.